Out in the hot and arid region of Thanalan stands the city-state of Ul'dah, the city of gold where money rules everything. The home of gladiators, thaumaturges and pugilists, this is one of the 3 possible starting cities. In this video, we will explore the origin of Ul'dah, from their dark history to their modern political system. After the War of Magi led to the 6th Umbral Calamity, the people's view of magic changed. Once a power feared and respected, now it became shunned and hated. At the dawn of the 6th Astral Era, the people demanded that magic would be forbidden outright. The hate of magic grew so strong that those using it were forced to hide their talents or move to remote outskirts of civilization to avoid persecution. But over the course of several centuries, the view changed again. Magic was no longer hated, instead it became desirable for its military potential, and it was the heirs to the sorcerers of Mach, one of the great magical cities, that decided to reclaim the rightful place of the Magi. These heirs banded together, headed deep into Thanalan, and used the magical art to find water. And what started as a well grew into a town which by the year 737 had turned into the nation of Baladia. And this nation would flourish in peace for 200 years. It was governed as a sultanate, with power passing from sultan to heir for generations. Well, till the year 964, when the current sultan grew deathly ill, becoming confined to his sickbed. At the time, the sultan had 2 sons, Sasagana and Sasavefu, who both wanted the throne, and as their father lay sick and dying, they called upon soldiers loyal to them and threw their nation into a civil war between the factions supporting its prince. During this conflict, the sultan passed away, but neither prince would release their claim on the throne, to the point that by the year 969, they had tore Baladia apart, with each brother going to found his own city within Thanalan. Sasavefu formed the city of Sil'dih, while Sasagan formed the city of Ul'dah, becoming the first sultan of the line of Ul. And now with both brothers having their own cities, they still were not happy. Finding myriad of reasons to fight, their animosity led to that generational thing where 2 cities remained in frequent warfare long after their death. And it was in the year 1159 that King Lalavefu of Sil'dih instituted flood control to save his nation's failing economy. He began to draw water from the upper reaches of Ul'dah's water source, leading to the people of Sil'dih proclaiming Lalavefu as the king of springs. But Ul'dahans, whose water was now lessening, leading to more droughts, resented their sister city, setting the stage for yet another war. Tensions would keep on rising, with further drought till 1177, when King Lalavefu died from illness. This momentary chaos within Sil'dih spurred Ul'dah to action. Ul'dah gathered their army and marched forth, reclaiming their water source. Sil'dih was of course not keen on having their water stolen or reclaimed, depending on which view one would take. The elite of Sil'dih gathered their own armies and met Ul'dah in a bloody conflict that lasted for several summers, with neither side grabbing victory. And with the city stuck in a stalemate where neither would back down, it was Ul'dah who finally changed the course of history. Not through peace, of course, but through horror. It was the year 1181, and the thaumaturges of Ul'dah had discovered a powder which could turn corpses into zombies. The Ul'dah army then laid siege to Sil'dih, starving the city and locking the people inside, and then they used catapults to throw the powder into the city. What followed within Sil'dih was nothing less than pure hell. The people who starved to death would rise up again and begin attacking everyone around them, and those they killed would in turn rise up and do the same. The horror became so much that the government of Ul'dah decided to hide what truly happened. Sasagan Ul-Sisigan, the 3rd emperor of the Ul dynasty, created a story which was told to everyone outside of Sil'dih. The people there transformed their own dead into zombies in an attempt to win the war, and that the sultan ordered the Immortal Flames, an elite unit of fighters, into the city to cleanse it, purging the walking dead, and with it the nation of Sil'dih. A much nicer story than we threw horrible toxic powder in there and created a zombie apocalypse. After this, the powder was quickly sealed away under guard, and the truth of what happened to Sil'dih was kept secret from everyone. And they managed to keep it a secret for good 40 years. But then came a man named Baldur Thorn, a noble known as a righteous and honorable man, and he found out the truth. Horrified with what he had learned, he exposed it. The Sultan tried to have Baldur executed, but instead the Sultan was imprisoned within the Marasaya pit till his death. And now, Ul'dah without a government, Baldur was asked to serve as a Sultan instead. He refused, but did agree to serve as a steward for the city until it would be stable once more. During his role, he would keep the powder a secret, but established the Order of Arbiters of Truth, which was tasked with preserving the truth of Sil'dih downfall for the future. And with him, the Thorn dynasty came into power. They ruled for about 200 years, and this dynasty brought a lot of change to the city-state. In 1270, the city was moved to a stand almost directly above where Sil'dih once stood, giving them access to water system, but also creating an issue with undead coming up from the sewer around 100 years later. The current throne sultan enlisted the Amalj'aa for help, and with the Beast Tribe believing that Thanalan is sacred, they were eager to help, creating for a time a tentative cooperation between the enemies of Amalj'aa and Ul'dah. Not something that will last forever, but it's neat to see that once they could actually work together. The Thorn dynasty built the foundation of the modern state of Ul'dah. By 1190, the city-state had already started trade with other cities under the previous emperor, including Limsa where they bought ships and hired sailors, allowing them to open trade with the Near East. And the Thorn dynasty just took over and expanded this work, forming the Ul'dah markets, establishing overland trade routes, and generally strengthening the merchant class. And at the end of their 200 years of leading, they turned the city back over to the Ul dynasty, which ruled the city to the state. But with a merchant class that kept on becoming more and more powerful, the power of the Sultanate would weaken, leading to a major change in 1401 when the line of Ul formed the Syndicate, a group of 6 advisors from the merchant class to rule along with the Sultan. These 6 are the 6 wealthiest Ul'dah citizens, or those who have added most to the city's wealth. Today, the Syndicate is roughly split into 2 factions: the monetarists, who wish to see the merchant class hold all the power and lay down the Sultanate altogether, and the royalists, who believe the Sultan should rule the city. At the start of our tale, the current ruler of Ul'dah is Nanamo Ul Namo. He was only 5 years old when he took power and has lived a rather sheltered life, often seen more as a royal puppet than a leader. Though as of late, she seeks to gain more control and assert herself and her ideals further. Within the Syndicate, he only holds a single major ally, which is Rauban Aldin, a man born in Girabania. He was forced to flee his nation after the Garleans attacked it. He spent 2 years of his life as a vagabond before coming to Ul'dah, where he was mistaken for an imperial spy and imprisoned. And for many years he fought as a gladiator in the Colosseum as the Bull of Alamigo. By the time he turned 37, he had won 1,000 matches won and used his winning to buy the Colosseum, and with it earned himself a place in the Syndicate. Today he leads the Immortal Flames, the Grand Company of Ul'dah, and therefore spearheaded Nanamo's army. He was in fact there during the Battle of Cardeну with the other leaders, having one of the worst voice lines I had ever heard at the time in the game.
Mad Snake! Answer me!
The rest of the Syndicate are the monetarists. They are Lolarito Nanarito, who heads the East Aldran Trading Company, Telechi Atelechi, who owns the Mirrors Trust, which both run a casino and money lending business. There is the chief foreman, Firkis Loathgilspin, who leads the Amalj'aa Sun Mineral Concern, one of the wealthiest and most powerful mining company within Thanalan. And then we have 2 people who are slightly more in the middle, or hard to place. There is Prioress Deval, who is head of the Order of Nalthal. While he is more of a monetarist than a royalist, he walks a fine line between the 2 factions, and often tends to mediate between them. And last, we have got Bert Mandeville, the best goldsmith in all of Eorzea, and the owner of the company Mandeville and Mandeville, which does own the Mandeville Gold Saucer. But the man has noticeably little interest in politics. But when looking from the view of the average citizen, the Syndicate is barely noticed. To most, it's just the Sultana who rules, and the people of Ul'dah busy themselves with doing what matters most to them, which is earning money, power, and simply finding a way to live in a massively unbalanced economical system of Ul'dah. It is 5 years past the calamity that we can start our journey here. By that point, the city-state is suffering with the refugee problem, both refugees from Alamigo, but now also refugees who who lost their home and livelihood after the calamity. The situation of extremely rich and extremely poor within the city, the balance of peace can feel tentative, and political tensions are reaching a boiling point. But if you don't start there, the city is still a place you want to visit. It holds great professions like jeweler, alchemist, goldsmith, and miner, along with some reason being a very popular place for any event quest to start. So, take a walk through the busy streets of Ul'dah. Just remember to bring your coins, because there, money rules everything. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found the Origin of Ul'dah interesting. I think it's very dark and definitely a story I would like to explore further in-game. I think it would be an excellent flashback sequence to go back into Sil'dih, because gosh damn, that's one way to end a war. If you liked it, please do all the good YouTube stuff, it does help with the algorithm. And if you want to find more content like this, try out one of the videos on the screen, I am sure they're good. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.